Warning. Pro-Tri News is a podcast with different opinions, knowledge, and possibly fake news about triathlon racing. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and some stories may be dramatized for comedic effect. Enjoy.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Pro-Tri News. I'm your host, Kyle Glass, joined by the gang, but I'm going to introduce our somewhat regular person now, Steph Clutterbuck. Steph, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. It's nice to be back on with you guys and kind of back to a bit of normality in my week. So thanks for having me on. It makes me feel like an athlete again, rather than my sit and rest and don't do much at the moment. So,
and Steph's done her hair up for the show today.
Yeah, I absolutely have. I got a message on Monday asking if I wanted to come on, so I booked a hair appointment for Tuesday.
And you've been a bit under the weather, Steph, because we obviously saw you didn't quite start Hamburg. Maybe the closest anyone's come to starting a race and then not starting it.
Yeah, I was in
transition.
Yeah. So I was literally in transition morning of and made the call not to start. It's been 8 months now of ongoing health issues that just haven't been able to get a finger on. But I think we're there. I think we're there with a diagnosis. I have one last test this week that we're waiting for the results on. And it's generally positive. So I've had a June off season, hence the jokes around me not doing anything. I think this is week 5 of not training much, if we consider like a taper week pre-Hamburg where I really didn't do anything in the week before. So I'm ready to start training again, and I've just got to manage the rebuild really carefully. So hopefully I get to feel like an athlete again soon. And in the meantime, doing all the media.
Well, thanks for making time for our media. Guys, did any of you? I know Kyle and Talbot, you'll have been up late watching the news because the world's kicking off. I was up late as well. So how are we? It's early for you two there. Well, early for you three there.
I was attempting to watch, but then my wife and I have been arguing. She's has this mold spidey sense. She's like, I know there's mold in this house. I have a sore throat. And I'm like, no. And then I look up under, she found some water dripping under our fireplace. And I was like, oh, that's not good. Took her TV off the wall, just black all on the sheetrock, put your finger right through the sheetrock. And I'm like, oh, there it is. So I was cleaning that till about 1 a.m. That's rough.
Kyle, are you training? Please tell me you're training.
I'm not training.
No,
yeah.
Anytime I call Kyle, he answers. So that's kind of all you gotta know. It's never like, hey, I'm in the middle of this ride. Call me back, or hey, I'm sorry I didn't answer your call. I was swimming. I don't get that. I get 1 or 2 rings, and it's Pat. What's up?
The problem is whenever you have 2 full-time jobs and then you travel down to Australia and you bring your bike all the way there, but then you're so busy having fun doing excursions, you're just like, I just don't really want to train. So
I love that. I don't want to. That's the only good excuse. Yeah,
but it's not the lack of equipment or the lack of nutrition or anything. It's just I'm just like, I've done an Ironman without training before. Maybe I could do another one. So
perfect. We're in the same boat then.
Anyways, there's 2 races going on this weekend. 70.3. Is it the Netherlands? West Friesland?
Yeah.
I think that's the one
that's
the one that's finished up. It was a silver tier race. Matthias Peterson won. Tom Bishop just on the podium, and then a Belgian athlete, Dieter Comhair, second place. My boy Brock Howell, he's trying to come back and get himself a 70.3 world slot. I believe no, I don't think he got it for 4th place. So no Brock Howell for 70.3 worlds this year.
And then we've got Ironman Les Sables. Steph, do you reckon Indy might win this?
I think she might. However, you have just missed out the women's field in West Friesland. So we're going to go back to that ever so quickly. Marlene de Boer won. Maya Stage-Nielsen in second. And then Solène Biouen from France in third, which is really cool. So I think that would be as far as the slots roll down.
Yeah. Should be. Yeah. And then the French athlete, she's the one that raced as an age grouper at Geelong because France wouldn't let her. And then now she's raced as a professional.
And got on the podium first go. That's pretty good going, isn't it?
Yeah. Crazy. So, anyways, yeah, Lasab, I mean, Indy is pretty much running away with this race. She's got 20 minutes up on Elsvisser, so.
And
Yeah,
isn't
and it will
slowing.
roll to 3.
Does
No,
Indy
no,
have
she's going
a
well.
T100 contract? I think she
It's
does.
a very
yes.
good question, Talbot.
I
So
believe
she
she does.
DNF'd
I
in
thought I had
Singapore.
saw her.
Yeah, so she missed San Francisco, and then she did Vancouver, but didn't start that because she couldn't travel. So now she's getting a Kona slot here. Correct.
Do you guys think that anyone took a big as a financial hit from skipping all these T100 races as Taylor Knibb? I don't believe so. Or do you think she's like the only one? I think I mean, technically, you're allowed to miss 3 races, I guess, that interfere with other races. Are you
Why we've
talking
been
Pat?
awkward about it? Taylor gave up a load of money to not go to Singapore. Other people are still within their contract, but it doesn't look great necessarily because they're just missing a bunch of races and doing other races. But Taylor took a voluntary financial hit not to do Singapore because that was compulsory. But it gets later on that it becomes a problem because you can choose to miss a few, but then you have to do all the rest. And when you can't do any of the rest for whatever excuse, you don't really have an excuse because you chose not to do the early ones, is my opinion.
Right. So, and you get to do, yes, and there's some, you basically get 2 strikes on if you do a race within 2 weeks of a T100 race. So I'm assuming now this is Indy burning one of her strikes. Right? I mean, she got 1 to go after this. So she went to Singapore, DNF'd. Probably didn't mean to do that. Probably didn't want to do that. What was the other one?
San Francisco. She raced that 70.3 the weekend before, I think.
This might be her second strike then. So she might be having to do this. The interesting piece is that everybody was kind of saving a strike for
70.3 Worlds
and Kona.
Kona.
Yeah. And so that'll be the interesting one. TBD how T100 want to enforce this. I mean, she might be saying, look, you still owe me money from last year. You haven't paid out the world ranking bonus.
Yeah.
So everybody has their own way of going about it.
Fair, very fair. Right, come on, let's go on to what we're actually here for, which is the biggest race of the year outside of World Champs.
Ironman Frankfurt coming up this weekend on Sunday. I believe Talbot and I will be heading there to go and spectate / media / do all the things we do at races because we love going to races. So Ironman Frankfurt will be this weekend, European Championship, men's only. Bib number 1, Christian Blumenfeld. Bib number 2, Patrick Lang. Magnus Ditlev, Rudy von Berg, Gustav Eden, Jonas Schoenberg, Daniel Backegaard. I mean, this race is, if T100 or PTO updated their start list on their website, the soft score would be off the charts. But we've also had intel that they will no longer be doing that. Yeah.
Oh, it's so sad because it's such a good resource. So before
Is
we go on to
there-
Frankfurt, people are saying profiles are getting removed. They're not updating soft scores. They're not updating the points unless it's for the contender series. It's really a shame because it's a great resource.
How much do we think it costs to run that, to do that?
Talbot would know.
I don't know because Thorsten's doing the maths, right? I presume it's an automated program where he just copies and pastes the results in, and then it just generates. It can't be manual.
Do we ever think that Pro Tri News could take that on, get some crowdfunding, and we could buy that? I mean, is there any IP with it, or could we just?
What I'll tell you is, if Kyle doesn't do it, it's definitely not getting done.
That's the truth. I'd say 5,000 to 10,000 a month. I would guess if someone was managing that database.
Wow.
What
I wonder though is what percentage of their traffic onto their website is as a result of that? I bet a high percentage of their traffic on their website is that resource. So if they remove that, I wonder what impact it will have on their traffic.
I don't see myself ever going to PTO website in my life without that data source. I would have no use.
I would have no reason to go to their website.
Right.
The only reason I go on are for the rankings or races that are upcoming to plan a race season. Like that's it.
Yeah, including non-Ironman. I mean, non-T100 events. Yeah.
I'll
Same.
tell you though, I have a lot of brands that tell me they go on that website for scouting, recruiting, and their own due diligence.
Yeah.
And so
the one person that could take it. Sorry,
Yeah.
I wonder now. Would Ironman ever do it with non-branded events? They wouldn't, would they?
No.
Ironman's already doing it. It's already their website's full on.
Yeah, but it's only Ironman, right?
Only Ironman.
So, because the two people that would do it are Thorsten, who basically does the stats for, I believe, for Pro Triathlon. He did for a while for the PTO. And the other one would be Sam, who is now an Ironman employee from Triathlon Insights. I don't know anyone else that would be incentivized to do it.
And why can't World Triathlon do it?
They should.
They could.
They probably should.
It's actually really good, right? It's a really, really good tool on the website. Every athlete, links to every race's rivals, everything. And if it goes, it's a real shame. It's one of the best things the PTO's done, to be honest.
If I'm Thorsten, I'm bringing it in house, and I'm doing it at trirating.com, his website that he already runs. It's a phenomenal website. So
are we 100% certain that Thorsten's been the one that's been getting paid to do it?
No,
but he started it. He started some of the stats and updated a lot of them.
Right.
Because I know
believe
that
it was
him. You could speak to him
and maybe Christoph Balestra, the guy that was running the Auto Try.
Yeah. And so, in cycling, I think the closest thing to it is there's two competing businesses. There's Pro Cycling Stats and First Cycling. And those, they're essentially just plucking data from the UCI and then putting it on and then running Google ads in the side, the sidebars of their websites. But those are separate businesses. And probably that's something that needs to happen here, where there is I wish that Ironman or World Triathlon would take it over. I think they're going to be too proud to take it over, and they're going to exclude certain races from it because they don't feel like it's under their umbrella. And I don't think that's a fair snapshot. So I do think that ultimately it needs to be an independent third party that runs it, and probably, use something like what Pro Cycling Stats or First Cycling does, because this is something that I think really needs to go through. Talbot, what do you think?
I mean, we'll try to source some more information, especially as we're going to be on the ground. Usually, Thorsten would even be at a race like Frankfurt, so maybe we can link up with him and chat with him. Yeah, but Frankfurt coming up this weekend is going to be a phenomenal race. I mean, I am absolutely stoked. Last year, this is the where everyone said Christian throws up race, because Christian threw up here, vomited his brains out, but also ran a 2:32 while vomiting his brains out. So we have a big weekend ahead of us. We were just chatting on the show. We think that this is arguably, maybe some people can message us, the most competitive Ironman event in history outside of the World Championships. So it is going to be a stacked field. Let's dive into how we think the swim's going to shake out. Who are our fast swimmers?
Steph's the swimmer. Come on.
Well, so you've got Wilhelm Hirsch swimming, and he tends to lead out the swim. He's going to be the one that's driving the pace onwards. And I think the question will be how many people get to sit with him, because that changes the dynamics of the entire race. The bigger the front pack, the faster, but I guess easier the bike, and therefore the faster the run's going to be. But if he turns up and absolutely drills the swim, as he typically could, then we have a much smaller front pack, a bigger chase pack, and then people are burning their matches on the ready for the run. So yeah, I think the question is, does KB make it into the front swim group if it's a big one, and therefore will we see a similar kind of 2:32 or faster to how we did last year? But then we've also got where is he? Kieran Linders, who had like his insane race here last year to come second, and we know that he was working on his swim for Frankfurt last year and has continued to do so for the last 12 months. So like, is he going to be driving it forwards? And what about Andreas Salbersberg, who led out the swim in Texas? Like, there's just so many different dynamics and people that could take the bit between the teeth at the front of the swim and say, actually, no, we want to get away from Patrick. We want to try and break the group up from KB because we need time on him and we want to force him to race rather than sit in the pack.
Yeah, I think like in Texas, the swim just didn't do what Andreas Salversberg, he had problems with swim skin and stuff like that, and it just didn't do what it was meant to do. Like, they didn't get rid of these people. It was a massive pack. It's quite a straightforward swim there, but again, it's quite straightforward in Frankfurt. I think it's going to stay together. I think there's too many. When you've got Wilcock, Wicky, Salisbury, sorry, and a bunch of these good swimmers, like you say, I think it just creates too much water, and it'll be quite a big pack, is my prediction. But they're certainly the ones to watch out for. Onto the bike, though, it's anyone's game. But is there any incentive for like Christian Blumenfeld to ride hard, or does he just back his run?
I mean, it just depends on if Rasmus Svenningsen's going to come up through the group. I guess that's kind of the biggest question mark.
Cam Worth as well.
Cam Worth, yeah.
I think I would say there's two people that everyone in this field is watching. That's Christian Blumenfeld and Patrick Lang. And a lot of the racing will probably happen, just as Steph just said, coming out of the water, because then they're going to look around. They're going to say, where's Christian at? Does he need to go to work on the bike to catch the front, or is he already here? Also, Patrick Lang. We have not seen Patrick Lang race since Oceanside, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct. Yeah.
And so we don't know. We've seen Patrick be 4 minutes down out of the water, and we've seen him in the lead pack. So we don't know where Patrick will be as well. So
here's
I just did in Magnus as well.
Oh yeah, no. Magnus is. I think it's a race between three people, and I was actually even going to say two, and say it's between Christian and Magnus, in the sense that I'm not necessarily worried about Patrick Lang at Frankfurt. Patrick Lang at Nice, different story. I think that he's had a pretty bumpy. I mean, it's been very public. He's had a very bumpy last couple months. He needs to probably just get a race under his belt and then go, okay, now I can really focus on Nice. I think the one ace that Patrick has up his sleeve for this weekend is, I just went and took a peep at the weather forecast in Frankfurt for Sunday.
It's going to be hot.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be smoking hot. It's 90 degrees Fahrenheit is the predicted high. So they will be running in the heat of the day. It will be hot. There will be some epic meltdowns because of the heat. So I think, it's a 2.5 horse race. We'll see how I do think Patrick Lang has the capacity to show up very late in the day.
But we also have Rudy von Berg, and we also have Casper Stornes, who and Daniel Bakkegaard, who forced the podium to fight so hard in Texas, where it was equally hot and super humid. And we can never write off Rudy, because every time we try,
no, sorry,
Chris is wrong.
Steph, yeah, you're not. I know you're not a regular full time on this yet, but we don't rate Rudy at all. What we do is we like to not mention Rudy, and then we act really, really unsurprised when he does well. That's
okay.
We're like, yeah, of course he got there.
Ah.
Why? I want to zoom out for a second and ask, why did this race attract all of the top talent? Is it because there's just nothing left to do? It's in the perfect spot. Like,
no, there is.
I guess,
because otherwise you have to do. Yeah, you either do South Africa and Texas really close together, doesn't work. You do Lake Placid, which is later and closer to Nice, which if you can avoid it, don't do it. Or you have to travel all the way to Cairns, which you don't want to go the other side of the world. So this is like
Unless you
on
want to go
the
see
same
Great Barrier
continent.
Reef. So.
Of course, unless you're like living life like Riley out there, Kyle.
Yeah.
I think it's just for me, the obvious season was always South Africa and Frankfurt or Texas and Frankfurt. If you were going to if you're a man, as a female, you can get away with Lake Placid a bit because Kona is obviously later.
You got extra time. Yep.
And it's a fast course, and it's a famous race. It has good prize money. It's got a lot of status in Germany, etc.
Let's talk about our bikers real quick. So you got Magnus Ditlev, Christian Hogenhag, Cam Werf, and Rasmus Svenningsen. Would you guys put anyone else in that conversation? KB?
Yeah. Talbot's muted, but KB, I think. I don't know who else. I mean, they're the ones that are going to be. They might want to be aggressive, but I don't see KB being aggressive. I don't know if he needs to, because who's he being aggressive against? He's not going to try and drop Magnus Ditlev because he doesn't need to. And if Patrick Langer's in the group, maybe he puts an early effort in to try and get rid of him before Magnus catches up, possibly. But yeah.
I wonder if we're going to see a similar dynamic to what we usually do when you've got Christian and Gustav racing together, where at some point during the bike they just get bored and decide to try and break up the group. You see them having a conversation on the stream. They're like, okay, let's go. And then they'll kind of make a move and try and break up the group together. Obviously we don't know how Gustav's going to be. But if he's on form, I guess like he was in Oceanside, then I wouldn't be surprised if we see them starting to toy with the group if it gets too big.
I've heard he's on a lot better form than he was in Oceanside and in Texas. A lot better. So, that's a great point.
Well. Dude, Mark, tell us a little bit about the bike course here. Is this? I mean, if obviously with a hot day like this in July, there is a probability of some really great wind with it. Will we see a windy Ironman finally that we haven't seen for a long time? It seems with a field like this.
No, not massively. I don't think. No, it's because it's quite twisty, but it's like rolling. It's quite fast roads. It's not like a blistering fast course, though. I think we'll see sub 4 because the way people are riding now, like every course seems to be a sub 4 course, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Man.
The wind forecast is actually really low. It's like 10k an hour, 6 mile an hour sort of thing. So it's super low. So we won't get a big windy bike course. We've seen some interesting stuff here. Do you remember when Jan Frodeno basically crashed his bike but didn't really, and he kind of hopped a curb and went across a big grass embankment, lost his bottle, but because it was Jan Frodeno, the bloody referee basically drove up and gave it back to him because that's the way it works. So no, I think it's just a fast but kind of normal bike course in Europe, rolling. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think it's going to stay together. I think we could see maybe 1 or 2 off the front if Magnus goes, especially if Christian Hogenhaug's there, he might try and go. But all in all, I think this is going to be a running race.
And so let's get into the runners. You got KB, Patrick Lang, and then everyone else? Or would you say there's anyone else that can be considered in that running conversation with those two?
No.
Those two have demonstrated those two have demonstrated multiple times they can be in a league of their own running, and they can spot some people 4 or 5 minutes and they can still make it up.
Yeah, running. I guess as for some of the newer listeners, running is very unlike the biking. And biking, if a good cyclist can impact the race because they can drag a lot of people to the front. When you have great runners like someone like Matt Hansen comes in Cairns, I believe he might have been like 10 minutes down or maybe a bit more. He's not pulling anyone up with him. So I don't know how much the running matters unless you're just going to be fighting for the win.
I am intrigued to see how the pacing of the run works, because I think more in men's races than female races, the men are going off on these marathons so hard, and it's not unusual for them to kind of ping through 15 kilometers ish and the tracker to show that they're on to run like a 2:22. But if it's forecast to be so hot, that will like massively impact their ability to do that, whether or not it's something they recognize as they're running. And I'm not for a second suggesting that that's kind of how Christian and Patrick pace their runs. I mean, potentially those that are fighting to make a bit more of a stand. But it could pay off. So it could be that's how someone completely unexpected runs themselves onto the podium, or you have someone that comes off the bike and runs like absolute lightning for 10K and they drag a favorite with them. That favorite then runs too fast and pops. And all of a sudden, the race massively opens up because they overheated far earlier than they expected to because they were trying to race rather than run their own marathon.
And there's a lot of out and backs here. You see a lot of people. It's 10K loops, so a lot of out and backs. You're going to be seeing a lot of your competitors doing lots of time splits. So yeah, that's a great point, especially at a course like this.
There's a few of these bridge hills, aren't there? So it's not actually that flat. There's quite a few up onto the bridges and down again, which sort of slows the course down a bit. I think if it's like 31 degrees Celsius, 90 plus, I think then your reliability of your run performance in heat is just becomes a fact rather than a question. Like if it's 31 degrees, Patrick Langer has an advantage. Magnus Ditlev has proven he can run well in the heat. He's done it in Kona really well. Rudy has several times in Texas and Kona and stuff like that. Christian's a bit more of a question mark when it gets really hot. We don't know. We haven't. Have we seen Christian run a really good? I mean,
Cozumel
this year, Cozumel.
But
it wasn't that hot.
It wasn't hot in Cozumel. Texas is Christian's back.
It is going to be 10 or 12 degrees warmer than it was in Texas. I'm not trying to diminish how good Christian was, but we got to remember it was actually not that hot in Texas compared to what's forecasted in Frankfurt.
That run was so hot, I was dying.
It was really hot.
I mean, I know, but the actual temperature compared to what's coming in Frankfurt, it's a 10 or 12 degree difference.
I think you can expect less humidity in Frankfurt than you have in Texas, so it might level it out slightly. But go on then. Are we in the realms of picks?
Let's do one more thing. So Christian, obviously defending champion. One, what does he need to do to win this year? And two, what would someone else need to do to knock him off?
I think the only person that can beat Christian is Christian. Yeah, I don't think
that's
that
such a nonsense answer, Pat, but come on.
Well, what? I mean, I don't think he gets put behind. I think if, whatever derails him, he got beaten Kona last year. It wasn't that anybody beat him in Kona. It was that he couldn't keep his fuel down on the bike. He's vomiting, and then, he has a terrible run, gets 35th, 37th place or whatever because he's just got nothing on board. I don't think that's somebody that put that onto him, right? I mean, one could say that it was, him trying to keep up with Magnus attacking, and he just had too much in his system and then couldn't hold it back. So, I mean, maybe that's a strategy for this weekend. I'm not sure. I mean, how does somebody else make him lose this race? I don't see him getting dropped on the bike.
Well, there's two ways. Like Magnus could maybe drop him on the bike. Maybe Christian's at the back of the group. Magnus gets a gap. Christian, it's too late to react. Magnus goes and gets himself enough time. But the reality is Magnus still needs 5 minutes, 4 minutes.
What did he have on Martin Van Riel? I mean, he had 8 minutes in Martin Van Riel at Ironman South Africa.
I would say he needs 6 minutes, 7 minutes.
Yeah, I think so. And the only other way I think he gets beat, and I think it's unlikely, is if Patrick Langer's in the group and he gets outrun. But that would have to be because it's freakishly hot. I'm not sure I can see Christian Blumenfeld getting outrun head to head, even by Patrick Langer.
Yeah, and Patrick Langer historically has never really done good in Frankfurt. His best year ever, I believe, was like in 2018, where he got third place to Jan Frodeno. So, and he got outran by Jan by 8 minutes, and that was his best ever result in Frankfurt. So, other than that, he's been like in 8th place and 11th place, and then he turns up in Kona. So,
yeah, I just go back to what I said 10, 15 minutes ago. I'm not very worried about Patrick Lange at Ironman Frankfurt. I think when we do our Nice preview, it's a very different conversation.
Yeah,
there's a reason he's a 3-time Ironman world champion, and I think he's going for a 4th. But I don't think we're going to see that. He's not going to signal that here in Frankfurt.
Yeah.
So what do we think we're going to see from Gustav Iden and Kasper Stornes?
I think they'll be more visible this weekend, but I don't think that ultimately they'll. I mean, to say that Gustav's in better shape than he was in Oceanside or Texas, I mean, what are we talking about there? I mean, so if he was top 10, that would be a huge step up.
Well, he didn't race too well in Texas.
He was on the
That's what I'm
podium at Oceanside, no?
Yeah,
Yeah,
70.3. So
yeah, but he had a 3-minute lead on Lionel.
yes, but also just remember in Texas he did have like 2 flat tires, which helped put him out of the front bike pack. So,
Lionel was running on that kind of Red S pace fuel, isn't it? Where you're super light and just fucking flying along, but then you inevitably break. That kind of we call it the Red S peaking that you can always spot in athletes.
Oh my god,
they tend to win a world champs and then disappear for 6 months.
Okay, so what's a good Mark? So what's a good result for Gustav this weekend?
Top 10.
Top
5.
That's what I said.
Nah, top 5.
Top 5.
Top 5.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, I reckon top 5. I think Kasper could get himself onto the podium as well. I basically had 7 people picked for my 3-person podium. I think it's that ridiculous.
To the club, Steph. Welcome to the club.
This is just
finally initiated.
It is going to be such a good race to watch. Just such a good race to watch.
All right,
let's
do
some
some
picks. Yeah.
Top 3. I don't really want to go first, but I will, unless someone else knows what they're picking.
I'll go first.
Pat knows
easy.
Christian Blumenfeld.
Magnus, KB, Rudy von Berg. Boom. There's your podium.
Like Magnus is winning?
100%.
All right.
He has to say it.
But I believe I believe it.
No, you don't. You literally just said the only person that can beat KB is KB. You explain why KB is definitely going to win, and then out of nowhere, you pick Magnus.
Well, I can't give away all his trade secrets. I mean, but.
All right, Kyle. Let's hear it.
Okay, I'm going to take.
Oh, go for it, Mark.
Oh no, I'm going. Before I have to be the 4th person to pick. Christian Blumenfeld wins. Gustav Iden comes 2nd. Patrick Lange comes 3rd.
Whoa.
I like it.
Wow.
I like it.
I'd be really happy for Gustav if he got 2nd.
So would I.
Yeah.
I love Christian to death. But I think that the bit of racing, he's done a lot of racing since Oceanside. He's kind of gone into like ebbs and flows or whatever. But Patrick hasn't really raced since Oceanside. And Patrick is very good at the Ironman distance. I'm going to go Patrick Lang for the win. KB 2nd. And I really like the Rudy von Berg in 3rd. But I'm going to go Kasper Stornes in 3rd.
You picked my pick. I'm going Christian to win and Rudy for 2nd. Kasper for 3rd.
Nice. I got
no Langer, no Magnus.
I know, and this is what I mean. 7. I've got 4 more people that could be on there. Like I think it all depends on who comes out the swim when, and that will change. Actually, for the men, does change the entire dynamic of the race.
I got Christian winning it, Gustav 2nd, and I'll put Magnus in 3rd.
Couple things I want to mention. One, Rudy von Berg kind of doesn't really get his dues like on how consistent he is. He's probably one of the most consistent athletes. It's been a while since he's won an Ironman. I guess since Texas?
Who?
Rudy von Berg.
I would say a lot of that's due to the fact that he raced T100 series last year, which was a terrible decision.
I think
he's going to be one.
I think it's because he doesn't have top tier race run winning evidence. He's never run fast enough to win a race against the very best, and he doesn't have the ability to come off the bike ahead of them. So you know that in a race like this, if one of, say, Langer and Blumenfeld put together their run, they will beat Rudy.
Got it. I just asked that because we had a listener that was submitting some stuff that was basically like Rudy doesn't risk it enough or doesn't race hard enough that he'll ever win a race anymore. And that's what
I think his style's just different because the front of the race is now so fast that he either is able to run through because it's not fast enough, or he isn't because it is fast enough, and his consistent speed will keep getting quicker. But when you've got guys that are just absolutely drilling the front of the race, and they're not necessarily the ones that go on to win the race either, which I think is important because the front of the race being fast helps the fast runners if they're there.
Yeah.
So I don't think him risking it more would actually make him faster. I just think he is excellent at knowing how he needs to race in order to finish as high as he could. And sometimes it pays off, and sometimes the gap's just a bit big, if that makes sense. You can only race who's in front of you.
And Rudy doesn't show up to these no-name Ironman events. Like his last no-name Ironman event was Florida, which, I mean, he had decimated everyone. So, and then he won Texas that year as well. Then his next two Ironman events in 2024 was Roth. It ain't no walk in the park. And he got third there, and he got third in Kona. What else can you ask for? Then shows up to Texas, which is a super stacked race. He gets third again. So
the last time Rudy was off a podium at an Ironman event was fourth place Ironman World Championship Nice 2023. And before that was Ironman Cozumel 2022. So you're talking 3 years of being on podiums at Ironman events. So pretty insane.
And he definitely doesn't duck races, does he? He doesn't duck fields, that's for sure.
Yeah. So another thing worth mentioning, there's 14 men on the start list that already have slots to World Championships. So you could maybe see these 5 slots roll a little bit depending on how the race pans out.
I will say another athlete that there's lots of athletes we didn't talk about. Watch Cam Werf. I think that he was having a flying of a day at Eagleman. We saw the way he biked in Texas. I mean, this is Europe. He's been there. He's done a big camp over there. He could have a great day. Daniel Backegaard as well. Another athlete that we need to keep our eyes on that will could easily have a good day as well. We've seen how Rika's been going with the coaching change to Laura Phillips' husband, who is now the same coach as Daniel Backegaard. So,
agree.
And
topic of the week.
One last thing. Love Ben Canute. He's not ducking, just as Mark said. Why wouldn't you just do like a Placid and like potentially win it?
He's going to race Nice, right?
Yeah.
Is doing Placid. It's a bit like when Kat was going to go and do that Bustleton race to secure the Ironman Pro Series, and Jan Frodeno said to her, in a way, that's you accepting you can't win 70.3 worlds because you're going to Australia 2 weeks before you're doing a race. You're being safe and you're not committing to trying to win 70.3 worlds. If you think you can win 70.3 worlds, you've got to sack it off, risk it all, and go and do it. Is doing Lake Placid instead a bit like saying to yourself, look, I can't win Nice, so I'm going to go and do Placid because it's easier and it's better for the Ironman series. So is it like he doesn't want to concede to the notion that he isn't capable of actually really performing on the big one? So he's being a bit set by Lake Placid would be the cop-out in my eyes.
I mean, yes, your theory is correct, Mark. There's a couple of realities here, you know.
Yes.
The one is just the geography, right? Big flight. I mean, granted, it's a direct flight, Denver to Frankfurt. It's an easy flight for him, so that's not bad, you know. But
the other thing,
I just think he's trying to do the big races. Go on, Steph.
He needs three Ironmans, right? So if he's targeting the Pro Series, leaving Placid as your final Ironman, if you've got the World Championships as the actual final one, and something goes wrong and you puncture, you're then missing an Ironman score. So actually, it might be that he's factored in potentially the need to do Placid should something go wrong in Frankfurt and he's unable to finish. So therefore, he's got a bit of leeway with regards to point scoring.
Spot on, I
Fair
reckon.
point.
I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah,
good
nailed
point.
it.
Yeah. And like Kyle just said, KQs are going to run.
KQs could run deep, so it's like, I mean,
athletes, they'll be calling up some of their children just to give them slots as well.
can we talk about one more race this weekend that's happening? 70.3 Nice, just for the standpoint of this is the last qualifying race for 70.3 World Championship, and you got some T100 people on this wanting to get a slot last second.
Oh, yeah.
Kyle Smith and Martin Van Riel. Seems like they may be wanting to race 70.3 Worlds a little bit more than they would want to race T100, maybe? I don't know.
How many slots are available in Nice? Is it 2?
2.
Ooh.
But then you also have Leon Chevalier on this list, Clement Mignon. Both of them do not have 70.3 World slots.
When do you think? When did Kyle and Martin figure this out? Where they were like, "Oh, I gotta go get this last spot. Like this is the last weekend."
They've probably been talking about it for the last couple of weeks in San Francisco and Vancouver.
Man, what a mess.
It's like being on a date with your girlfriend talking about your ex-girlfriend.
I mean, those two win it. I don't see how anyone beats those two. I haven't got the list up in front of me, unless there's some like one of these 70.3 ninja kids we don't know about. Surely those two just win that and take the slots, and everyone else is kind of screwed by it.
Yeah, with the form that those two have. Yeah.
Louis Knabel from Austria, maybe? He might be a name that can come up.
Sorry,
not
Louis.
Against those. Unless Kyle had that hamstring thing, didn't he, in Vancouver? Unless that's caused him some issues, possibly. But
that's all I know.
Sven Thalmann.
Side note: if you are Ironman,
interesting.
If you are Ironman, can you move your start list to the Ironman Pro Series website? It'd be a lot more convenient.
Thank you.
We're always having to go from the Pro Series website back to the Ironman website. Now I get to that Pro Athletes thing. Just all that information, Pro Series, Pro Event Calendar, prize money breakdown, Pro Start List, just migrate it all over and make things a lot easier.
They're definitely listening, so they'll do that next week for us.
Oh,
Scott,
that's a bigger ask than that. Guys, how do we think that long course racing is elevated so much? Is it the running shoes? Is it all just because of the Nikes, or is it because of nutrition?
We talked about this on our we've only I think ever had 2 pods that have got deleted in the history of our show. We lost an episode with Sam Long very early on, and we recorded a fantastic episode with Craig Alexander after Kona this past year. And unfortunately, none of it was. We were all on mute. We were all on mute. So we talked about this with Craig a little bit. I don't remember if it was on the show or off the show, but I mean, he was saying like, look, I remember when I did a 426 bike, and we thought that was, another level. And now Sam was dropping a 356 or a 350, whatever he did at Kona. But I mean, some real simple things. When you go back and you look at photos of Craig Alexander, who was an Uber biker, dude's position is not aero. He's in a sleeveless 2-piece kit, so that's not dialed up. I'm assuming he's got Mark, what do you think he was having for gels? Like goo shots or Cliff gels or something that was that nobody
that
would
was in
use
the pre. It was in the pre-fructose era, right? So it's like hi-fi gels, stuff like that. So the reality was that you could probably absorb 60 grams of carbohydrate an hour. That's kind of what all science showed. That was the best case scenario. And then we kind of realized the relationship of fructose, and that you could essentially double, if not more, what you can take on board. And now whilst people are saying they're taking 160, 180, there's no real evidence that you can absorb all that. But certainly athletes can absorb 120 grams of carbs an hour now, which is double the energy availability. And it's not just the availability, it's half the deficit in calorie deficit when you get off the bike, because essentially you've taken on board twice as many calories and absorbed them, which is just massive. It's so, for me, like, I'll finish my bit here. Nutrition is what's changed it. Nutrition is the single biggest thing in training and in racing, because of course when you're training now, you're able to take on that much more carbs, so you can get more out of every session, you can get more gains out of every session, and therefore you can train more as well. And then in the race itself, you are able to race faster. So for me, it almost starts and ends with nutrition, and then the smaller details of the rest.
Certainly. So I'm going to do one more lap on that though. The nutrition piece I think is huge, but what we've also seen with cycling is that the bikes have made a categorical leap forward in the last 15 years. So both in the sport of cycling and in triathlon, if you look at what they were riding 15 years ago compared to what they're riding today, the bikes, the clothing, the helmets, everything's gotten insanely faster. So that, coupled with the nutrition, I think is the hugest gap. Not to mention then, you've also 5-6 years ago, the shoe wars began, and the shoes got, again, if I look at what my wife won an Olympic gold medal in compared to what people are running in today, I mean, you could not imagine how people would run 10K in those shoes. And that was 9 years ago. It's not like it was 29 years ago. This was 9 years ago. So I think you've got all of those things that are effectively just cascading together, and it's made these monster improvements across the board.
While I definitely don't disagree, because I've been a recipient of newer kit and it is amazing, and especially I think with the bikes, you just can't deny when you go from a bike that cost you £400 that you bought on Facebook Marketplace to one of the top end and you get a bike fit and all that sort of stuff. The speed differential is huge. I think for me as an athlete, one of the turning points that I see in the sport was sub 7, sub 8. And the belief that gave to other athletes out there about what is possible. And we see it time and time again in different sports, but Roger Bannister breaking the 4-minute mile back in 1954, he was told it wasn't possible and he decided to do it anyway. Within 6 months, I think 100 more men had done the same. And seeing an event like sub 7, sub 8, seeing what the human body is capable of doing from these 4 amazing athletes, plus all their kind of the support team that sits around them and the other athletes that were helping them, I think it's taken a bit of time because training and physiological performance also needs to step up. But I think it's given the athletes the belief that more speed is there and that there aren't the limits on us that we once thought there were.
And I think there are some standout races going on at the moment as well. Like, I'm going to cite Hamburg just because I was there and watching it. You know, in what world are you in where you're leading off the bike and running a 2:40 in the women's race, and then watching a woman run a 2:38?
Yeah.
You know, off a fast bike in a not particularly not particularly fast run course, even though it's super fast. If you're another female athlete out there now and you're wanting to compete, you have to now genuinely believe that you can go and run 2:40. Now, why can't you? Because Kat's progressed through it. Laura was never this good. Like, she's not always been this good. They've improved. Why can't I improve? So I think Steph's really on something. I'm not sure I'm not sure I agree it's sub 7, sub 8, but clearly it had an impact on you. So why not? But I do think it's when someone breaks a barrier, the race improves. And what I'm getting at is we now have more good athletes. So these barriers are more likely to get broken more regularly, and then everyone else has to step up to match it. Before, it used to be 1 great female, 2 great men exist in the sport. So for the barriers to be broken, it had to be something they did. But now we have 5 or 6 great women, 7 or 8 really great men. So I think the barriers get broken more regularly.
And so where do we think it goes from here?
It's going to just keep going up.
Sub 6, I think.
I mean, it's going to be awesome to see where the limit actually is, because there's really great video. Actually, Wayne Gretzky got interviewed a few weeks ago, and he talked about this exact same thing. So in hockey, the skates that they used to use when they got wet, they got 5 to 10 pounds heavier. And so it's just like he talked about how like the equipment back then to where the equipment is now. He also gave credit to nutrition. I mean, every athlete is susceptible to nutrition, like whether you're playing basketball or hockey or triathlon or whatever. So it's intriguing of how the level is going to continue to rise. And he also said the athletes now are better because they've watched the past. And so they've been able to study the game a lot longer than the previous.
I think the argument for nutrition is also seen because it's not exclusive to triathlon. Cycling, what Pogacar's doing at the moment, and then Jonas is quite close, and Remco's a little bit, that what Van der Poel's breaking speed records for every monument. Marathon runners, there used to be a handful of guys that could go sub 2:5. There's now dozens and dozens of them. That same nutrition advantage translates to those sports as well, and I think that kind of makes an argument for it being largely the nutrition factor.
Yeah, I do agree. You can finish races now. I think especially as someone who races the long distance, racing, if I then race a half distance, I don't feel as depleted, if that makes sense. I'm able to fuel it. So my recovery is actually really quite swift after a half distance. Also, I can't try hard enough to be quick enough over the half distance, which definitely helps. But I think the nutrition has helped us to fuel this step up in performance. I do think there is an element that the short course athletes coming in are forcing those mid to long distance athletes to race in a different way, because the men's front pack has now grown and is fast. The women, it's not just Lucy at the front anymore or Sarah Perez-Sala swimming at the front. Like there will be a continued growth of the front pack of the women's racing, which will then only make the race itself faster. And that doesn't come from mid to long distance athletes just kind of organically getting better at swimming. Their hand has been forced because short course athletes are coming in and they are exceptional in the water. And if you're not with them, especially as a male, if you're not with them coming out the swim, you're not going to be there where you need to be by the time we get to the run.
Agree.
Yeah, I think that's really true for the middle distance, especially. That the short course impact is seen on the middle distance.
Speaking of the most important distance in all of triathlon, we have the long distance world championship this weekend in Pontevedra.
I'm so confused because I thought this went away with World Triathlon and T100 getting into an agreement together. Isn't that what we thought was going to happen, Pat?
This was the one that we said that needed to be clipped. And
I think we said that.
Yes, we said it on this pod. Yeah. We went through.
Unfortunately, just because we say something on the pod, it doesn't happen.
Doesn't necessarily.
Yeah.
So what are you the world champion of if you win the T100 series?
You're the world champion of the T100 series.
Middle distance.
Is that what they're calling it?
I believe it's officially, yes, the middle distance world championship.
You guys think we should host our own event between us and then just call it a world championship? So then in our Instagram bio we can write world champion,
or we could just start a race
former world champion
and then call it the middle long distance world championship. Just pay enough money to World Triathlon, you can say, hey, we have the middle long world championship.
I mean, that's basically what the World Triathlon long distance is, because it's not full Ironman distance, is it?
No, it's a weird, a 30K run.
I mean, what is that?
Yeah.
Well, let's get into this race that, I mean, maybe they live stream.
We don't even need it. I mean,
we got a bunch of athletes racing.
I'm glad. Let me just say, I'm glad you guys are reading the show notes, but we don't have to talk about all this stuff.
Yeah. There's
if it helps, Kyle, I think only Steph read the show notes.
Yeah. I did read it.
Well, here we go. Let's just sum it up like this. After this weekend, you two athletes, a male and a female. I think I got criticized. Someone said they can't believe I say female. I should be saying woman. Someone sent us a message.
Honestly, if that's the only thing, if that's
all we got wrong, I think we're doing pretty.
I'm set. They're like, Kyle and Talbot, all they ever say is female. It should be woman. You say men. And I'm
I
like,
apologize because I said female earlier.
yeah, that's
So-
You fucking
what I was getting at,
sexist.
Steph. Guys, we're gonna have to kick her off the show, or we're gonna get canceled.
Dragging
This
us
is
down.
ridiculous. All right, a woman and a male will change their Instagram bio next week and post a post and say world champion.
And the man's
Marjorie
going to
Perez
be
on the start list.
the man's going to be Antonio Benito Lopez, and the woman's going to be Marjolaine Pierre.
She's won this before as well, hasn't she? She won it in
Yeah.
Ibiza at DNF.
Yeah.
there. And she was
Yeah,
really good
yeah.
there, actually. Like really, really good. That's when I first thought she could be good at Ironman. She actually was super good there. So yeah, I mean, is it Antonio Benito Lopez doing it and Marjorie Pierre? Congratulations on your new World Championship titles.
And unfortunately, Marjolaine doesn't have a Kona slot yet, so she still needs to do because she was a DNF at Hamburg. So
She is off
She will
to
have-
Victoria, I believe.
Victoria, yeah. So and then backup
And-
plan Placid.
Did we talk about Sam Laidlow and where he's going to get his knee slot yet? Because it kind of leads on.
I don't believe so.
Only if before
a
you say it,
theory.
you say he's ducking.
I have a theory, and it's turbo duckaging by Sam Laidlow. Sam Laidlow will come and do Ironman Leeds.
Are you excited? How far is that from you?
I'm not sure. I think I'll be in Austria by then or somewhere else. It's actually only a couple of hours away. It's up where Alistair Brownlee's from. It is a slow as hell course. It is a hard race that to jog round, like because he just has to get round. How many weeks after Roth is it? It's pretty close.
3 weeks?
3?
Does
3.
does Sam finish Roth, or does he collect the start money and?
I think Sam's actually in quite good form now. I'm taking back what I said a couple of weeks ago. I reckon Sam will be good in Roth. I'm seeing some better vibes.
Really? I watched that video he did where he did that little race in France and he was like 90 watts off what he needed to be normally.
Yeah,
on the bike.
I think he'll be all
but
right.
that's like
He's some mind games guy. I think he could win the world title. He could destroy everyone in Nice.
Yeah, and don't forget, this is the guy that went 3:56 in Kona. I mean, he can spot them 40 watts.
Yeah.
I was thinking about something and then I talked myself out of it. I was thinking about how cool it is that Leeds has hosted a WTCS race and then now is hosting an Ironman race. There's not a lot of venues that have done that. I guess the only other venue could be Cozumel, Frankfurt, or Hamburg.
I'm sure
Hamburg, yeah.
people could rattle off some more.
Interesting.
If anyone can rattle them off, it's Kyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Leeds is part of our National Performance Centre, so it's one of the 3-ish British Triathlon National Performance Centres, and it has a bit of triathlon heritage, literally just because the Brownlee brothers, they are like celebrities up there still, and it's kind of beautiful. It's just hard riding these northern UK races. Like Bolton, I used to think was the hardest Ironman in the world. People just didn't know that. The course was absolutely horrendous. The hills are just up, down, and then the bottom is a 90-degree turn on gravelly, high-hedged corners. So you don't carry any speed. The roads are shit. Yeah, I think it's hard, but I think that's my prediction
Let's move into the remainder
based
of the
on
hot
no
takes.
insider knowledge.
PTO World Ranking unfairly skews their race series. Haven't
Well,
we
it's gone,
talked
so don't worry about
this?
I don't think it matters anymore because the PTO rankings is gone because they're not going to do the PTO website anymore.
T100 events are more expensive than 70.3s.
Fact. It's more
Is that a
expensive for you to
fact
do T100 London than it is for you to do, let's say, 70.3 Indian Wells.
Wow, because that is not how they marketed this at the start. It was about
Nope.
hosting affordable races, right?
Yeah.
Um,
And I think they've gone a bit early. I think they needed it to be a really assigned brand that people desperately wanted to be part of before you hike the price, like Ironman did. And I think T100 is not there yet, personally.
The only thing that they have going for them in this case is that all the Ironman races are full. We saw a memo that Ironman put out even for 26 of all the races now that are full. So there's an appetite to do more racing, and this is obviously a benefit to the entire sport, but this is something where the T100 could pick up the slack, I guess. The issue is that there's probably just not enough races in Europe that people want to do. Where this is clear where the markets want some more races. So
And they're not putting these in cheap venues. That's the other thing. Like London,
Like
I'm
London
sure
is a
is
cool
not
race.
cheap.
To be fair, for an age group, it's a good race. The age group course is better. It goes down like past Big Ben, down and whatever it is, Embankment, etc. So it is a good race. I'm just surprised it's now more expensive than a 70.3, which, let's be honest, they're really expensive anyway.
Yeah.
Mark, the last time we saw Ann Hug race was Challenge Slough, which was the DNF, right?
Yeah, I listened back, and just after I tapped out, the first thing that came up was "Where's Anne Haug?" and I'd literally been at dinner with her the night before, and a few nights before that we'd had dinner out. The answer is Anne Haug has been injured. She had an injury at the start of the year, and it's unlike her. She's had running injuries. She's back running. She's healthy. She wants to compete this year. I think she's also in a much more normal, happy place in life. Anne Haug lived in Club La Santa. I was wrong when I said like 5 or 6 years. She lived in Club La Santa for 20 years, which is absolute insanity, but is why she's one of, I think, the greatest female German triathlete that's ever lived right now. I mean, I put her ahead of Laura Philipp at the moment, and she will always be a legend in the sport. She's now 41, 42. She has her own house. She has a dog. She has a boyfriend. She has a life. So I'm not sure the raw drive is still there. But as I say this, I'm very well aware Anne Haug might just turn up in Victoria and absolutely blow the race apart and will be like, oh my God, is Anne Haug going to win Kona? Because she is that caliber of athlete. So the answer is she's just been injured. She had an unlucky rolled her ankle before Slough, which was on top of a few health issues. And then she's had another running injury. But I believe she's back healthy training. So yeah, it's not some mystery. It's just the normality of life. But because it's Anne Haug, you don't hear about it on her social media because she doesn't use it. So
Yeah. Well, we had a big
And
hot take
she's
last week.
outside. She's outside the validation period, correct? So she has to get her slot outright. Because
if Anne Haug does an Ironman, she will just get a validation slot. She doesn't turn up to races not healthy enough to do well. She's shown that. She doesn't turn up and pond around a race. Like if she turns up in Victoria, for instance, she'll probably just win it, would be my prediction. So I don't think Anne's desperately worried about whether she's validating or whatever.
Yeah, and there's 3 slots there, so who cares?
I actually went for a curry with Anne Haug, which is quite niche, by the way. Because going for a curry and beers is something very English and quite laddish. And I never thought I'd be sitting there ordering like a lamb madras and a pint with Anne Haug, but it was bloody lovely.
Mark, we had a hot take last week, and we wanted to get your insights on it. Do run splits matter if you don't win? And Steph.
Don't give a shit. I don't care how fast you run if you don't win. 240 cat, waste of time. Came second, no one gives a shit. Like, and I guess when it's a run battle like that, it's more impressive, and when it's right at the front end. But if you're running a 2:30 and you're coming 5th or 6th, I don't care.
Steph?
I have a different opinion. I think as an athlete, you can make it matter. So, like race performance, and this is very niche. This is very much from a professional athlete trying to make their way in the world as a professional athlete and set up a business and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
If you can turn up and run fastest run splits, you have a trump card that you can play with sponsors, and therefore you can make it matter even if you're not winning. And I have a feeling that Dani Kleiser is she representing Puma? Which, and you know, she is the fastest 70.3 runner in the world at the moment. Like, make it matter, make it count. And yeah, okay, you might not be at the top of the results, but until you've got a swim bike to back it up, make the fact that you can run the fastest run split count. That's my take on it.
I like it. I think it's totally fair, and absolutely the athletes should use it. Like, you should use it if you're a swimmer, because you get exposure once you're onto the bike, etc. If you're an Uber biker, you should have a decent bike sponsor and you make it work. Running is, of course, the same. I just don't really care about these individual splits, only in that I actually find them more annoying than anything else. I find it really annoying when good cyclists that can't run for shit bring a race back together, because I'm like, what? All you've done is just bring a whole bunch of people that were out the race back into it. Same for swimmers in a way. Like, it annoys me when there's a gap and someone like Steph has taken a few other people up with them, and then. Well, Steph backs it up. Who's a really good example? There's like the one that really annoyed me, Rachel Zelinskas in Texas. She almost she took Taylor Nib 5 minutes up and then just blows to pieces. So it's just a very personal, stupid, bigoted opinion on the whole topic. Steph's is a much more educated and sensible answer.
Rachel had a massive hip injury and has been sidelined ever since. Just FYI.
I would
Well, I
still push back a
apologize.
little bit on the time though, because like you take someone like Matt Hansen, for example, he continually has the fastest run split. So therefore he's able to take advantage of it and get a sponsor like On. Just because you show up to a one-off race and you have the fastest run split, I don't know if sponsors are going to look at a one-off race that you have the fastest run split and be like, try to sell it. Like, I don't know if it's going to, maybe you can. I mean, maybe Manuel Messias is going to be signing a massive.
He already is with Puma.
Yeah.
I think Steph's right, but you have to do it consistently. Yeah.
Consistently. Yeah, exactly. Which usually anyone is rewarded for consistency and results.
What else we got?
Pat, I got a bone to pick with you. Last week we were talking about this exact same thing of run bonuses being included into contracts. So if you have the fastest swim in a race, you get a bonus for that. If you have the fastest bike split in the race, you get a bonus for that. But you're saying that run splits, you don't get a bonus.
There would certainly be some. Look, I would never ask for it, because the brand is only going to do it if. Okay, so some athletes have a Kona bonus for the fastest bike split. Also has to be in tandem with winning the race. So that to me demonstrates the importance. If you have the fastest run split and you also win the race, again, I used the word pedantic last week. I'm going to use it again. I don't want to sit here and just go to a brand and try and beat them up 19 different ways to Sunday on price and money. And so it's like, look, I want the biggest prize for winning the biggest race. And I don't want to sit here and say, oh, hey, can you also do this? If she's got the fastest run split, can you also throw that in there? I just think that's weak. Yeah, Mark?
Yeah, but that's because you represent Taylor Nib, Kat Matthews, Magnus Ditlev, and Lionel Sanders. So,
I was literally going to say that.
With respect, you are after a different type. You don't want 50 grand to win Kona and nothing else. You would rather find ways to make money in your contracts, right, that suit your strengths.
100%. Yeah, that's exactly it, Pat. You are representing 4 athletes that are trying to win a world championships, and then I'm here. I signed contracts into my first year that had bonus structures to suit my strengths, and then they evolve each year. So this year, my kind of the podium structure is better than it was last year, because I'm not just relying on fastest swim or fastest bike. And then hopefully, we'll get to the point that I am just taking big payouts, winning world championships, and that's great, and we're all going to be happy. But until that point, I need, like, me as an athlete, I need to sign contracts that I get some money from.
That's fair.
So Steph, what are your fastest run split bonuses like?
Well, none. I don't have any. I've never had a fastest run before.
Plenty of fastest swims there, mate.
Any
more?
Next one. T100 equals best triathlete. 70.3 North American equals best duathlete. 70.3 EU equals best swim runner.
What does this even mean?
That was a fan submission. So basically, they're saying that the T100 is best all-around triathlete. 70.3 North America is basically the best duathletes based on who wins the races.
I'm not going to entertain this. I'm not going to entertain this.
Why not?
Do you know what I'm missing? The best all-round triathlete is the Ironman world champion.
Yeah,
because the race goes on for so long that you can't get away with a poor in one area, whereas you can in some T100 races, 70.3 races, etc. Really flat, boring, round course. You can hang on for dear life for 80k. You can't do it for 180k. Like the swim as well. You can cover a 2-minute gap out of a 2k swim. But you can't cover a 4-minute gap out of a 3.8k swim. I think the best all-round triathlete in the world is an Ironman world champion.
I do love the North American best duathlete though, because that's like a shot at Sam and
100%
Lionel.
It's so true.
But also too, was there Europeans in Oceanside or in St. George? I can't remember.
Loads of them, and they got spanked.
But I think we've hit everything.
Who's better friends, male pros or female pros? Meh.
I don't know
I think outwardly the girls, but I think internally the men are actually also lots of them really good friends as well. I think that they're just more happy to make jibes for entertainment publicly. I think I think the women's does have a really good feel. Lots of them are good friends, but they tend to be friends around races, Steph, right? There are actually there are actually only quite a few friendships that then transcend year in year out, like Paula and Jackie or whatever.
Yeah, I think a lot of it depends on who you see, isn't it? And who you're actually then spending time with, because most of us are all over the world. And it's really fun when you get to see someone for like 3 races in a row. But then you won't see them again for like 2 years. So
yeah.
And who gives a fuck? Like
These are just fan submissions, so that's just
No, I'm happy for the fan submissions.
I think
it's a
more
good question.
Importantly,
But...
I think more importantly, a lot of the pro athletes, and Steph and Mark, Pat can probably all attribute to this. When you race pro in the pro field, you kind of go around and it's kind of like the circuit, and you go to events and you see just a lot of familiar faces. Like, I love Jackie Herring, phenomenal athlete. I'm not like talking to her back and forth when I'm not at the events. And then when you get to the event, you see Jackie and you're like, oh my gosh, how are you? She'll ask how Lord Jean is, how Noah is, like all that. Like it's just kind of this circuit. So everyone is friendly to each other, other than Sam Long and Sam Laidlow at the Collins Cup. That's probably the only
I mean, one of the greatest moments in triathlon in the last 20 years. So we should always be grateful for Laidlow for that sheer audacity of goading that he dished.
So you're saying bring back rivalries and shit talking?
No, with that, I hated that post, and I agree. Someone said they didn't like it because it just makes the athlete look weak, and I agree. If you need to like settle stuff by running your mouth, you're probably not very good at the sport.
I think there's a balance between calling it like it is, which I feel like we try to do on this show, versus like talking smack, right? And I don't feel like we talk a lot of smack on this show. We call it like it is though, and we're very clear about that. And that's the difference for me.
Yeah.
We're saying it like it is.
Yeah.
Does that mean that everybody likes the way that we say it? No. But we're calling it as we see it. And I think that's the difference versus me just saying, I don't like this person because this. So I'm not trying to talk smack. I'm trying to call it like it is. That's the difference.
I've said that, but I would absolutely love to open Instagram one day and see Steph calling someone out.
It'd be so fun.
You're going to call out Greg Harper is what I think is going to happen.
Speaking of smack talk, you can tune in this week to Ironman Frankfurt and watch arguably the boringest press conference you'll ever watch in your entire life, but then also backed up with the most exciting racing you'll ever see in your entire life this weekend. But we are stoked for this weekend. Going to be a phenomenal race. Kyle and I will both be heading out there, and then Mark and Kyle will be heading over to Challenge Roth. So as we said before, we are in championship season. We are super, super excited for the races to come. Thanks so much to Steph for joining us this week. We'll see everyone on the next one.